My name is Joseph Edward Smith. I'm 80 years old. I spent most of my life believing that if a place looked official, if a machine belonged to a bank, and if I did what I had always done, I would be safe. That belief almost cost me more money than I want to admit. I am sharing this because I know how quickly one small moment of confusion can turn into a disaster, especially for people my age. I did not lose everything, but I came close enough to feel sick about it. Once I understood how this scam works, I realized how many decent people could get trapped by it in less than 2 minutes. You see, this is not one of those scams that starts with a wild story or an unbelievable promise. It starts with something small, a little inconvenience, a machine that seems to be acting up, a stranger who sounds helpful. Then, before I know it, money can start leaving my account. Honestly, what frightened me most was how ordinary it all felt while it was happening. That is why I want to tell you exactly what I saw, what I did, what I nearly missed, and what I need you to watch for before this happens to you or somebody you love. I was running errands on a cold afternoon not long ago. I had already picked up groceries, dropped off a library donation, and stopped by the pharmacy. I remember thinking it was a normal day. I wanted some cash in my wallet because Catherine and I still like using cash for certain things. I pulled into the bank parking lot, got out slowly like I always do now, and walked to the ATM. I did not see anything strange at first. I saw a live screen. I saw a decent-looking area. I saw nobody standing too close to me. I thought I would be in and out in 1 minute. Then I tried to slide my card into the slot. It would not go in. I pulled it back, looked at it, and tried again. I got the same result. It felt like something inside the machine was blocking it. I remember feeling annoyed, not alarmed. That was my first mistake. I treated it like a machine problem instead of a danger sign. And here's what I didn't understand then. Sometimes the scam does not begin with a fake message or a fake phone call. Sometimes it begins with a real ATM that has been tampered with in one tiny place. What I learned later was simple and ugly. Thieves have been putting glue into the card slot. Just glue. A regular bottle of glue. That is all it takes to start the setup. The slot gets blocked. My card cannot go in. I get confused. I start looking for another way to finish my transaction. That is exactly where they want me. As I stood there, looking at the slot, I heard a voice off to my left. I still remember the line because it sounded so casual. I heard, "That happened to me too. I just used the tap." That sentence could have cost me a lot of money. I did not hear panic in that voice. I did not hear any threat in that voice. I heard what sounded like a regular person trying to help. You know what surprised me most? That was what made it dangerous. If I had heard tension or aggression, I would have walked away. But I heard something normal, friendly, almost annoyed on my behalf. I looked over for only a second. I nodded, but I did not really answer. I turned back to the machine and saw the contactless symbol. My card had the tap feature. I had used it in stores before. So in that moment, it felt reasonable. Maybe the card slot was broken. Maybe the tap feature would work. Maybe I was overthinking it. I didn't know it at the time, but this is where many people get trapped. The whole scam depends on making the next step feel easy, convenient, familiar. Let me explain. When I use my card normally, I put it in, do my transaction, take the card out, and that physical act helps end the session in my mind. I put the card away and I feel finished. But when I tap, there is no card to remove. That small difference matters more than most people realize. So I tapped my card. The machine accepted it. I entered my PIN. I took out some cash. That should have been the end of it, but it was not. I had the bills in my hand and my instinct told me I was done. That is how a lot of us think. Cash out means finished. But with contactless ATM use, that is not always true. The machine can still be sitting there waiting for another transaction, waiting for the next person, waiting for a thief who already knows exactly what I just typed. That day, thank God, something stopped me. Maybe it was age. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was the years I spent as a librarian learning to slow down and read every screen in front of me. Whatever it was, I did not step away right after the cash came out. I stayed there a little longer. I looked at the screen again. There it was. A question asking if I wanted to do another transaction. That was the moment my stomach dropped, because I understood two things at once. First, the session was still open. Second, if I had walked away, the next person could have kept going. Honestly, I felt cold all over. I pressed no. Then I waited. I did not leave until I saw the main screen come back. I stood there longer than usual because I wanted to be sure. Only then did I walk away. As I got back to my car, the whole thing started to look different in my mind. I replayed the blocked card slot. I replayed the stranger offering advice. I replayed the tap feature. I replayed the open session. It all lined up too neatly. I sat there with my hands on the steering wheel and thought, Joe, you were one distracted moment away from being robbed. When I got home, I told Catherine everything. I could see from the way I said it that I had shaken myself more than I wanted to admit. I said I thought I had almost fallen into something ugly. And here's what I didn't understand then. Even if I had lost money, I might not have gotten it back from the bank. That is the part many people do not know. When I started reading more about it, I learned that some banks have pushed back on victims. Their position has sometimes been very simple. I authorized the withdrawal. I entered my PIN. If I walked away before ending the session, they could say that was my mistake, not theirs. That is a brutal answer, but it is the kind of answer that leaves older people in real trouble. I have spent decades being careful with money. I know what it means to build savings slowly and protect what Catherine and I worked for. So when I imagine somebody losing hundreds or thousands of dollars because they trusted a machine and moved too fast, I do not just think about inconvenience. I think about groceries, medicine, lost sleep, and shame. You see, shame is part of what keeps these scams alive. I know how easy it is for me to stay quiet if I feel foolish. I know how tempting it is for me to say nothing and move on. I know how many older people would rather talk about a bad knee than a financial mistake. But silence helps thieves, not us. Let me explain something else that matters. This scam works because it mixes old habits with new technology. I learned ATM use one way. I inserted my card. I entered my PIN. I got cash. I removed my card. I left. Now the tap feature changes the rhythm, but not everybody has been clearly taught what that means at the ATM. In a store, I tap and go. At an ATM, I can tap, get cash, and still leave the session open if I do not fully close it out. That difference is subtle, but it is enough to drain an account. After that day, I called my bank. I did not assume I knew enough. I asked them to walk me through the contactless feature step by step. I told them exactly what had happened. I asked what screen I should wait for before leaving. I asked whether there were any added protections on my card. I asked what I should do if the card slot did not work. I could tell from the conversation that my call was not unique. That bothered me, because if my call was not unique, then more people were already getting hit. So here is the first rule I live by now. If the slot where my card goes does not work, I do not use that ATM. I do not care if I am in a hurry. I do not care if I only need $20. I do not care if somebody standing nearby acts helpful. If the machine is not working the way it should, I treat that as a warning and I leave. That one decision can save a lot of pain. I remind myself that a scammer loves a half-working machine, because a half-working machine invites me to solve the problem. I start improvising. I start rationalizing. I start telling myself I can make it work just this once. That is the trap. The broken card slot is not a puzzle for me to solve. It is a warning for me to respect. The smartest move in that moment is often the simplest one. I leave. Here is the second rule. I do not take advice from strangers around an ATM. I do not care how nice they seem. I do not care how normal they sound. An ATM is not the place for casual trust. Honestly, I hate saying that because I was raised to be polite. I still believe most people want to do the right thing. But a criminal depends on those exact manners. A criminal depends on me not wanting to look rude. A criminal depends on me listening for just a few seconds too long. So I changed my thinking. Near an ATM, I put politeness after safety. Here is the third rule. If I use contactless access, I do not move an inch until I see the screen return to the main welcome page. Not almost there, not maybe done. Fully back, session closed, end of story. I watch it the same way I watch my front door lock at night. There is more. I pay much closer attention to my surroundings now. I used to think that meant only watching for somebody standing too close. That still matters. But now I think about cameras too. Phones are everywhere. It takes almost nothing for somebody to record a quick video of me entering my PIN if I am careless. Even if the machine asks for a PIN again before another transaction, that does not protect me much if somebody already captured it the first time. So I shield the keypad. I move slower. I look around before I start. You know what surprised me most? How many small habits I had to relearn at 80. I let that bother my pride for about one day. Then I got over it. Pride is expensive when money is involved. I have also started talking to my family about this. I told them what almost happened, and I told them this kind of scam works because it uses confusion more than force. I knew that was true. I didn't know it at the time, but aging changes the scam equation in a painful way. Many of us spent 40 or 50 years building some measure of security. At the same time, many of us are not quite as sharp under pressure as we were at 45. I do not say that as an insult. I say it as a fact of life. My net worth can be higher at the same time my reaction speed is lower. Criminals know that. Criminals study that. Criminals use it. That is why I am speaking plainly today. If I can nearly get caught, anybody can. I was educated. I was careful. I spent a career helping people find the right information. I built wealth slowly and protected it for decades. And still, for a brief moment, I was one screen away from giving a thief access to my account. That should humble all of us, and it should wake us up. I have learned that modern fraud does not always try to overpower me. Sometimes it only tries to outlast my attention. Sometimes it only waits for me to feel rushed, a little embarrassed, a little distracted, or too trusting for 30 seconds. That is all some thieves need. They do not need my whole day. They only need one opening. When I remember that, I stop treating safety like a feeling and start treating it like a routine. Honestly, I think about scams very differently now than I did 10 years ago. I used to imagine that fraud always came dressed as something dramatic. I used to picture a fake prize, a wild email, or a loud threat. But many of the worst scams are quiet. They arrive in the middle of an ordinary day. They ask almost nothing from me except one distracted choice. That is why urgency is such a danger sign. Whether I hear somebody on the phone saying I need to act right now, or I hear a stranger near an ATM nudging me to hurry up and tap, the pressure itself is often the clue. Real safety allows time. Real banks allow questions. Real security does not rush me. So when I get a call now from a number I do not know, I let it go to voicemail. If it matters, I can hear the message and call back. If I hear somebody claim to be from the government or from a bank and say I need to do something immediately, I stop. I do not keep following instructions. I hang up. I call the official number myself. That habit is not paranoia. It is protection. The same mindset belongs at the ATM. I slow down. I read the screen. I ignore strangers. I cover the keypad. I close the session. I leave if anything feels off. I know that sounds simple, but simple habits are what save me. People think wealth is only about what I earn and invest. It is also about what I protect. A dollar stolen hurts just as much as a dollar never earned, maybe more. I am telling you this because I do not want retirement to become a season of fear. I want dignity, calm, wise decisions, and protection. I want to enjoy what I spent my life building with Catherine. That means I cannot be casual anymore about modern scams just because I came from an older world. I have to learn. I have to adapt. I have to stay sharp where it counts. I also started checking my account activity sooner instead of assuming everything was fine. I do not sit around in fear. I verify. I look. I confirm. Honestly, that habit gives me peace because it turns worry into information. If something is wrong, I would rather know today than next week. I also remind myself that smart people get fooled. Shame grows fastest when I imagine I am the only one who could make a mistake. I am not. None of us are. I have seen enough life to know that intelligence does not erase vulnerability. Experience does not erase vulnerability. Age does not erase vulnerability. Sometimes age increases it. That is why warnings like this matter. I have learned that safety in retirement is not only about passwords or careful investing. I have learned it is about deliberate habits, calm attention, and refusing to let embarrassment, convenience, or hurry make decisions that should belong to my judgment alone. If my story made you stop and think, then I want you to do one small thing today. I want you to talk to your bank about the tap feature on your ATM card before you need it. I want you to ask how the session ends. I want you to ask what screen you should wait for. Then I want you to tell somebody else this story. Tell your spouse. Tell your brother. Tell your neighbor from church. Tell the friend who still thinks every stranger is harmless. This kind of warning spreads best person to person, the same way these scams spread person to person. If this helped you, I would appreciate you staying with me here. I share these stories because I want people my age and the people who love us to make better decisions before trouble starts. So if you believe more people need to hear this, leave a comment and tell me whether you have ever seen something suspicious at an ATM. Press like so this reaches somebody who needs it. Subscribe if you want more plain-spoken lessons from somebody who has made mistakes, learned slowly, and lived long enough to know that one careful decision can save me, save you, and save a family, a world of hurt. I have more to share, and I would be glad to have you with me.